Pennoyer Prasad is a firm of architects. We were founded in 1988, and we are dedicated to making architecture which is centered on the needs of users. That's one of our absolute core principles, but also on the qualities of their sites, to make something that is sustainable and durable and also beautiful in the best sense of the word. 20 years or so ago, people in health services, pretty much around the world actually, started talking about patient-focused medicine. Suddenly realized that actually all of the medical institutions seem to be configured to suit the health services rather than the patient. You know, all the design was for the convenience of, let's say, the staff. And with that realization came the idea that you really have to see the world from the patient's point of view. And then you might actually recruit their own healing capacities, their own mental states to the therapeutic process, rather than the two being in conflict. Now, Pennoyer Prasad believed from the start that there must be an equivalent of that in design. And indeed, we weren't the only ones. Many people have done fantastic pioneering work in this field, but we embraced that. And therefore, all our healthcare design has been targeted at making buildings which put the patient at the center, and by proxy, therefore, the staff also at the center, because patients are treated by staff. We saw great potential when the LIFT program, that is the Local Improvement Finance Trust program, was announced to hugely increase the number of well-designed facilities to deliver primary care. It was part of a shift in the health service from acute to primary care to bring care closer to people. What interested us very much about LIFT and why we were so excited by it was that it provided an opportunity to look from first principles at an area with the users, with the planners, the NHS people, also doctors, practitioners, nurses, and to look at the area, define the health needs. Of course, they do the defining, and we do the listening and questioning. But in light of what already existed, the kind of cities, towns, the opportunities there were for redevelopment, to actually bring these two together so that you have a good synergy between the need for development, the desirability of it, or the undesirability of it, plus the need to provide healthcare in a proud, functional setting that really related to where people lived and how the service should be provided. So it was a new generation of healthcare buildings married to a new attitude towards development. And that is what excited us about LIFT. And now we're here in the heart of Hounslow Health Centre, which is part of the LIFT programme of Ealing, Hammersmith and Fulham and Hounslow. 3 PCTs, 3 local authorities getting together to take a holistic look at the whole area and devise a programme of buildings that relate to each other. One of the key aspects of the LIFT programme is, as practiced here, is as far as possible put together the different services that people need. So it's not just GPs, it might be dentists, it could be, depending on the size of the centre, like this one here, it includes podiatry, physiotherapy, children's services, family services, and so on, you know, because it has been recognised that people's health needs, people's social care needs are all very strongly linked. And if you start thinking and putting the patient first and start to configure the services the way they would like to receive them, you start realising that you don't want them to go from pillar to post seeking out different solutions to their health problems and advice about health, in keeping healthy as well. You want them to, as far as possible, come to one-stop shops, one-stop centres. So we're here in the heart of Hounslow Centre, which is the biggest of these, and in fact it's one of the biggest primary care centres in the UK, and a model for how you might most effectively gather together primary care services and deliver them to the population so that the needs of the patient, and hopefully fewer and fewer people as patients, people actually seeking health rather than cure for disease, the needs of those people are put first.
Yes, a building like this, of course it have an effect on the patients and their sense of well-being, because it's bright, you know, it's nice light colours, the pinks, you know, the brightness, it's transparent here, you can get a light in on a nice sunny bright day. So it does have an impact on patients and how they feel.
Looking after the patient also means looking after the healthcare workers. It means looking after the doctors, the nurses, the health visitors, and so on. And giving them the best possible facilities, the most functional facilities, so that, for example, you're not walking from A to B all day without actually interacting with patients, that you actually are, your work is made easier by the building working like a tool in your hand, rather than something that just gets in the way or just is very utilitarian. And in this, the atmosphere of the place is very crucial, because another thing that studies show is that self-esteem is a very important part of being an effective, happy, productive person in their working lives. And buildings can express that. So these are the themes that run through the work of Pennoyer Prasad and our approach to healthcare buildings in particular. At the heart of Hounslow Centre and other health buildings, such as the Richard Desmond Children's Eye Care Centre at Moorfields, the Knockbreeder Centre in Belfast, along with a large number of other similar buildings, we have striven for an architecture that, while accommodating immediate needs, also helps our client achieve bigger organisational and cultural goals in a way that accommodates future change. The NHS is the single largest user of energy in the UK and responsible for 3% of our total carbon footprint. Pennoyer Prasad have been trying as far as possible from the beginning in our buildings to push sustainability as a design criterion to the max, within quite strict funding limits. And whilst we haven't always been able to do what we want, the key moves are pretty self-evident. Very high levels of insulation, high levels of adaptability, by the way. Adaptability is one of the absolute keys of sustainability, because we want the buildings to last long. So here at the heart of Hounslow Centre, for example, the building is devised so that it can be easily altered and changed and put to new uses without too much expenditure of additional energy and additional resources. We're in very challenging economic times, and they're not going to get better very quickly. But the good news out of that is that we might actually start looking at our existing buildings in a fresh way, in a fresh, ingenious, new way, to reuse buildings more, to create buildings which are delivering more and more value for money while being sustainable and durable. We shouldn't be defeated by the lack of funds. We have to have money to do buildings up, but maybe in such a way that will actually start repaying through savings in energy and lower operational costs. At Pennoyer Prasad LLP, we design our buildings to be like tools in the hands of the people who use them, and the success of that approach has been recognized above all in the reaction of some of the patients and the staff who have used our buildings.
And I think it's important that we, feel comfortable and feel happy. Coming in is totally unlike any NHS building I've worked in the past. Coming in and, all the bright colours. And I know it's called the Heart of Hounslow, and I didn't know why, but obviously now that I'm up here, I feel like I'm on top of the, really in the heart of Hounslow, and that's where we are really.
The spontaneous approval of patients, of health workers, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, that is the biggest accolade you can receive, hearing that they actually feel that their lives have been improved by the existence of the designs that you've made.